What's cracking, everybody? You're back with Mr. Berger. And tonight, before we take a look at Pompeyo's Loonstone control deck, I want to quickly introduce y'all to the dog that I just adopted. Bonnie, come here! Bonnie! Come here! Come here, sweetie! Come here! Come here! Come on! Here she is! Oh, all we can see is her head. Hi there. Hi, sweetie. So, you know what, guys? Let me just pick her up real quick. There we go. Look at this vicious pit bull. Ugh, she pressed something on the keyboard. Vicious, terrible, grunty pit bull. She's gonna lick ya. Good girl, Bonnie. Good girl. Good girl. Yes. And now, on to tonight's video. Alright guys, so tonight we are looking at another deck that was crafted by Pompeyo, and I actually found this deck on TV Royale. So there's a lot of different places that I get my decks from, right? You know, sometimes I craft them myself, and I usually tell you guys if that's the case. And those are usually kind of the weirder, off meta, not as effective ones. But oftentimes I'll find them on like Royale API or Stats Royale or DeckShop.pro or something like that. Or, you know, get them straight from CWA or something like that. One of his videos. Or another good YouTuber. Now, occasionally, what I'll do is I'll surf, you know, like Reddit or even TV Royale. You know, directly in the game. And I did TV Royale a lot earlier when I first started the game. Because I thought, okay, it's a good way for me to see other players play and pick up a few little strategies here and there and find out a few decks. I stopped doing it as much, but you know, as of lately, I'm like, that's actually a really good place. If you scroll all the way to Legendary Arena, if you're not already there, the highest arena, you can see the top like 200 players in the world, and it'll tell you like rank number 100 or rank 150 or whatever at what their current rank is, and you can watch some awesome replays. And using those replays, you'll see that, or in those replays, you'll see that basically everybody uses all these super meta decks, right? So it's a really good place. It's a really good source for you to get new decks and new meta decks, and not only that, but you can take those decks and get ideas from them and tweak them a little bit based on what cards you have. Maybe your musketeer's low level, but you got really high level archers, so you put archers in there instead of musketeer. Like, that's great. You know, do what works out for you, right? But anyway, you can get ideas from those decks, and you can see how the pros play them, how the top like 200 or so players play them, and you can learn cool strategies from them. So I highly recommend checking those TV Royale replays from time to time if you don't already do that, right? So let's talk a little bit about this deck now that I've introduced kind of where I got the idea from and how I came across this deck. Well, first of all, you know it's a Pompeyo deck when you see the balloon in there, right? Or you know it's got a balloon in it when you know that it's a Pompeyo deck, whichever way you want to look at it, right? He really likes balloon. And anyway, this deck is a little bit different than some of the other Pompeyo decks that I've covered. The first one that I covered from him, I think I did a Balloon Cycle deck, and then I did an Expo Spawner deck as well, and then I actually did like a P.E.K.K.A. Balloon control deck. And this one is also a control deck. It's like a Miner control deck, but it doesn't have that P.E.K.K.A. in there. It doesn't have any really heavy, you know, like really hard hitter or heavy tank or really heavy expensive card. You'll see that everything in the deck costs 4 or less, other than the balloon that costs 5, right? So let's talk a little bit about the deck and the kind of idea and strategies behind this deck and how you're going to play it. Well, first thing that you want to take note of is there's a lot of defensive cards, such as like the Mega Minion, you got the Tombstone, you got the Inferno Dragon. You definitely want to use these cards defensively and play it kind of as a control deck. And that Tombstone, you can use it preemptively, or you can use it like right when you see their hog or their giant coming across the bridge into your side of the arena or something like that, right? But anyway, all these cards provide you with a really solid defense and answers to a lot of different win conditions, so definitely make use of all those great defensive cards. Now, that being said, once you've built up a really good defense, or once you've kind of, how would I say this, I want to say provided a good defense for your, or on your side of the arena, and answered your opponent, you know, really well with your defensive cards, you want to use your very powerful counterpush and offensive cards to, you know, gain the full potential of those cards on their defense. So let me give an example of what I mean by that, because I feel like I'm not explaining that as well as I could. So you got your Inferno Dragon. It answers, like, say, the Bowler here or something like that, or maybe a Giant or whatever you use it on. And then it's just floating in the air. If it goes across the arena by itself, it might connect to the tower. He'll probably answer it with like a Zap or an Ice Spirit or something real cheap, a couple skeletons, and just get a good positive elixir trade in answering it. And it's not necessarily a positive elixir trade depending on how you look at it, because you already used the Inferno Dragon to counter his heavy unit. But either way, it's easier for them to answer rather than using that Inferno Dragon that's already alive, that you already gained a positive elixir trade with, and using that dragon to provide a really powerful counter push. So you've got a few units in here that you would use to support things like that Inferno Dragon or that Mega Minion, the things that you use on defense once they're going down the lane into offense. So for example, you got your 2 mini tanks, right? You got your Ice Golem and you got your Miner, and those are really paramount to going for counter pushes here. Because I'm going to stress this again later, but I want to say it now too, you almost never send in the balloon without like a Miner or an Ice Golem in front of it. Occasionally you can send a naked balloon, but generally you want to send the balloon with that little mini tank in front of it to tank for the tower. And once that Inferno Dragon, you know, kills something, send in an Ice Golem or a Miner, or support it with even a Miner balloon push, and then whatever they're going to use to counter your Miner balloon, you've got that Inferno Dragon support as well, you know? So really play defense, go for battlefield control, and then go on offense when the time is right. When you see, like, okay, I've got a big push coming, I've got, you know, like right here, the Inferno Dragon's alive, I'm going in with the Miner, I'm going in with the balloon, and then I use the Fireball to get rid of that E-Wiz, and then the balloon connects and just absolutely wrecks that tower. And as you guys know, because I've said this in other videos where I play balloon, just 1 hit from a balloon does like 1/3 of the tower's damage, 2 hits almost kills it, 3 hits basically guarantees that it's going to die. So balloon is a really deadly win condition. They've really got to answer it. So if you can just get it to their tower at all, it does an insane amount of damage. Alright, so again, Miner. Miner's your best friend for counter push. I know the Ice Golem is great too, but that Miner is really kind of like the main unit, the main card in this deck that allows you to go in for those big counter pushes or those big pushes with your balloon. So really make use of that Miner. Miner is also a very versatile card. As you guys know, you can use him on defense if you need to, as like a mini tank, like a knight. You can use him to take out elixir pumps. You can use him to take out princesses and musketeers and other support units like that as well. Now, speaking of using the Miner on pumps, look at how I use the Fireball and the Miner and other cards in this deck to counter the pump, this pump 3 Musketeers deck here. Now, he doesn't use the 3 Musketeers very much in this game, but I think that's because he doesn't really get an opportunity to do so very much. And definitely pay attention to when he does finally drop the 3 Musketeers. I accidentally preemptively put something down right before it. You guys will see, it's kind of pretty funny. Anyway, let's get back to strategy here. So, overall strategy, again, just to quickly reiterate it, is control the battlefield, then you go in for a deadly counter push with your balloon, with the support of your Miner or your Ice Golem as the mini tank for the balloon, and ideally like a Mega Minion or skeletons from the Tombstone or Inferno Dragon as extra support behind it that you previously used on defense. Alright, let's go talk about more strategy and kind of how I feel about certain things in this deck. So one thing that I want to point out, like personally, is that I'm not very comfortable with Tombstone. I would like to use a lot of different cards in that place, or in the place of the Tombstone, and I'll talk about card replacements later, towards the end, as I tend to do. So hang on for that if you want to think about or hear some of my suggestions as far as what to replace the Tombstone with if you also don't like Tombstone. But even though I don't like it, I really wanted to run it and try it because I want to get better with it. First of all, you know, I want to become a better Tombstone player, and secondly, I wanted to stick to the actual specific deck that Pompeyo used in this replay that I saw on TV Royale. I wanted to, you know, use the exact deck that he did because I figured he crafted it. He knows what he's doing. He's got like first place in the world before, and so on and so forth. So I'm like, all right, let's learn it. Let's learn his exact deck and how he plays it. Or probably not how he plays it. I'm not that good, but you know, maybe learn a few tips from him, right? Okay. Anyway, one thing that stands out for me here in this deck, on top of the Tombstone being a little bit awkward for me, is that you got Fireball instead of Poison. And that stands out to me because you've got the Miner in here, and it kind of feels like a Miner control deck, so I really want to make it like a Miner poison deck. So if you want to put that poison in there, again, that's going to be a card replacement that I suggest for the Fireball a little bit in the future here, but that's up to you. I, again, went with the Fireball because that's what Pompeyo is using, and I've actually found it to be pretty effective because you can use it to directly answer things, you know, like minion hordes. I didn't use it there, but I could have to answer that minion horde against my Balloon, or, you know, E-Wiz, or Musketeers, or Wizards, so on and so forth. You got the Zap in there too, so you can always do that Zap Fireball combo to just obliterate their E-Wiz or their Wizard, whatever they use to counter your Balloon, and it'll take it out and do chip damage to the tower. And also, since that might be their only or their main counter to your Balloon, it will allow the Balloon to connect to the tower, be much more likely to be able to connect to the tower. Alright, so I know I said this like a million times, but one more time, guys, because I have this on my outline. As you know, I make outlines for some of these videos and kind of use them as prompts, right? Oh, there's that 3 Musketeers placement I was talking about. I used the Tombstone preemptively, but not really on purpose. It was kind of on accident, honestly. And then it took out the 3 Musketeers with the support of other things as well. Easy answer. And then I go for a counter push here. So, again, going back to what I was just saying a second ago, let's see. Yeah, you almost always want to combo the Balloon with the Miner or the Ice Golem. You can occasionally play it by itself, and you've seen me do that once or twice already. That's what I was trying to say. Alright, another thing that you can do is you can try to send the Balloon the opposite lane once they've used their hard counter. So if you've seen them like use their Wizard or their E-Wiz and you blew it up already in one lane, and that's like their only counter or their minion horde or whatever, or they use both of their counters to your Balloon, then you can ideally, you could send the Balloon in the opposite lane even by itself, and that could provide you with, you know, huge profit, because again, just 1 or 2 swings from the Balloon does an insane amount of damage to the tower. Now, other specific cards in this deck, obviously the Inferno Dragon is going to be a hard counter to tanks, so you generally want to save the Inferno Dragon to counter like a P.E.K.K.A, a Giant, a Golem, but you know, don't be afraid to use them on weaker things too. Definitely use them on like a Valkyrie or a Bowler. They're pretty tanky. You could even use them on something, you know, like a Knight or a Bandit or pretty much anything. Honestly, any single target unit Inferno Dragon is pretty solid against. So anything that doesn't have like multiple units in one card, you know, like Goblin Gang or Skeleton Army or Goblins or something like that. And that being said, even if they just send in like minions or something, like a lone Inferno Dragon will take care of those minions, shut them down enough that it won't get any chip damage off on your tower, because you don't want to allow even just the 3 minions to go alone to your tower without being answered, because they'll get a solid amount of chip damage off. So don't be afraid to use that Inferno Dragon on lighter units as well, but generally he's your main answer to the really heavy units. Alright guys, let's go ahead and talk about card replacements really quickly, and then we'll just kind of skim through this last replay, and then that'll be it for the video. So, Zap. Go-to replacement would be Log. But Zap, it's really good in this deck because you can do the Fireball Zap combo to support your Balloon, and you can also actually reset the opponent's tower with your Zap so that it de-targets your Balloon and retargets onto your Ice Golem or your Miner. You can like send in the Balloon and then send in the Miner after, and then zap the tower, and then the tower will retarget onto the closest unit, which obviously then would be the Miner, and then that'll de-target it from your Balloon. So Zap's really paramount in this deck, but if you want to replace it, you could do like Log or Arrows. Arrows would be solid too, honestly, to take out like minion hordes. For Fireball, you could definitely do Poison. If you wanted to go crazy, you could try Rocket, but I probably wouldn't do a heavy spell. I'd probably stick with like Poison. For Balloon, you could do another win condition, maybe like Hog, Battle Ram, Skeleton Barrel, something like that. But this is really a Balloon control deck, so again, that would really kind of change the archetype, and you may want to switch out the other support cards as well if you're not going to use that Balloon. But that's your major win condition, your main win condition in this deck, so if you're going to replace it, go for another win condition there. For the Miner, my go-to replacement is generally like the Knight. I guess, you know, I would say like the Ice Golem, you already got it in there. Maybe even Valk, honestly. But Miner kind of has that unique role of playing multiple roles, right? You can use it on defense or offense. You can take out princesses, you can take out elixir pumps, so on and so forth. So if you don't have the Miner, maybe just Knight. Inferno Dragon, I was thinking about this. I want to say Inferno Tower, but you've already got the Tombstone in there, and that's kind of your defensive structure. So if you don't want to put another, if you're running Tombstone, you don't want to have 2 defensive structures in there, right? so you don't want to do Inferno Tower for Inferno Dragon. I would say just as far as like a free-to-play friendly thing, just go for like a range support unit like Musketeer, you know what I mean? Just something to kind of provide some range support, something that can also attack air, and you don't need another melee unit because you've already got the Miner and you got the Ice Golem in this deck. Now for the Mega Minion, maybe regular minions, maybe like a mini P.E.K.K.A. or something, but then again you have less air defense. So for the Mega Minion, yeah, probably just like minions, or again even just like Musketeer, some sort of range support, something like that. Let's see what else do we have in there. Now Tombstone, this is one that I really want to talk about. Tombstone has a lot of different replacements. You could go for like a tornado if you want to go for that tornado synergy, use that as like your defensive structure. You also go for like a cannon if you want to stay cheap. Tesla's super strong in the meta right now, so I would highly recommend Tesla over cannon. You could also go for Inferno Tower, but then you would be doubling up. Maybe if you don't have Inferno Dragon and you run Musketeer instead, you could go Inferno Tower in the place of Tombstone or something like that. And lastly, for Ice Golem, you could probably just run Knight or Valkyrie. So guys, that is pretty much it for tonight's video. That is my review of another Pompeyo balloon deck. I call this like his Loonstone, you know, because it's like Tombstone and balloon deck. And it's kind of a control deck, so thanks so much for watching, guys. You can rage at me on Reddit, you can tweet at me on Twitter, you can inspect me on Instagram, and you can find me on Facebook. Do all the stereotypical YouTube stuff. Like, comment, subscribe if you haven't already. Maybe even share the video if you really liked it. Thanks so much for watching, guys, and have a good night.